Hey everybody, today we're going to be creating this app from scratch. So this is a data-driven app, native Android, all written in Java, not Kotlin. But this is a recycler view and it allows you to scroll through a list of users. So this is the emulator right now. I can, scroll up and down. I can see Katy Perry, Justin Timberlake, Lady Gaga. This is just a list of data, all powered by Room Database. We want to add a new user. Let's see here, Daniel Malone, daniel@me.com, not my real email address. Click add user. And if we scroll to the bottom, see here it is. So there's Daniel Malone, daniel@me.com. We can scroll. This is actually saved in the device. So it's not being backed up online by something by like Google Cloud Platform or Firebase real-time database or Firestore. This is just a Room database powered on your device. So you turn the device off, you turn it back on, you close the app, you open it back up. This data will stay saved to the device. Now, one of the disadvantages is it's not going to be saved online. So if you delete the app on your phone, it's gone. In future videos, we'll learn how to make it back up to like Firebase or Google Cloud Platform or something. But here we all are. I'll just add one more. Let's do Deb Malone. Add user here. That's saved in the database. Scroll to the bottom, and sure enough, there it is. Deb Malone, Daniel Malone, just some other random users that I wrote. So let's get into Android Studio. Let's go ahead and do we'll call it famous people next. That's fine. Oh, by the way, I'm in Android Studio 3.0. Basic activity is fine. Next, finish. I already have a virtual device created. You can either do that on you can either do this on a virtual device, or if you have a physical device, like right now it's hooked up to my Nexus, Google Nexus 5X. I also have a Pixel. You can use any device, or if you don't have a device, you can use a virtual device. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's just building the files and getting everything all set up. I have a fairly fast computer, so this shouldn't take very long. It's indexing. Here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Terminal, and we're going to go to present working directory, see where we are. Let's do cd famous people ls get status, nothing there. Get init, get add, get status, get commit. So this has just saved all of these files here in Git. And if you're not familiar with this and you want to use Git, let me know and I might make another video on it. But this will save all of your files. So say you work for 3 hours and then you decide, hey, I have this new idea. So I want to try this class, or I want to try this method name or whatever. It allows you to easily go back and say, hey, I want to go back an hour ago, or I want to go back 3 hours ago. Or hey, what did this file look like yesterday or 2 weeks ago? It's very powerful. So we're done with that. Let's go ahead and run it. So I'm going to do Control R, and these devices should show up in just a second here. So here, that's my physical device, but we're going to use a virtual device. I have it already set up. It's a Pixel XL 26 8.0 Oreo. Click OK. Here we go. Let's go back to the emulator. Here it is. And in just a second, this should show up. So it's building Gradle right now, indexing, installing APK, and here it is. So great. So let's go back here, and the first thing I want to do is make sure you're in Android view, and you can either do open up colors, and if you don't know how to get to it, it's an app, resources, values, and you can double click on colors. I'm going to change this to And the cool thing about Android Studio is, for these colors, you can click over on the left side, and I'm going to make that a little bit darker. So choose that, save it, run it, and if you look at our emulator here, that's not the right one. Here we go, famous people. So there, now it's red. So we have a red toolbar, and then we have a little bit red, darker status bar. We have our color there that doesn't really do anything. So this is, we're off to a great start. So I'm going to close everything out. And if I go back to here, I can do get status, and you can see, hey, one file was just changed, colors.xml. So what is that? Get diff oh, so anywhere where there's a minus sign, that means that it was deleted. So I deleted all these colors here. All those are got deleted, but these are our new colors. So you can see how valuable this is. Like you say you want to go back and you know, you want to go back, you want to reset it to before you change the colors. But let's go ahead and get status. That'll show us, yeah, one file was changed, colors.xml, get add dot, get status. Now it says, hey, one file is colors is ready to be saved. So get commit -m setup colors. Now we can do get log and we can see, hey, so our first commit was initial commit. That's what we did a few minutes ago. And then we did setup colors. And that was done by Daniel Malone. There's my email address, what time it was. So this is very valuable. You can actually go back like months ago or days ago, or you can see how files got changed. So one of the cool things is you can actually go into, if you right click and go to Get, then you do compare with, you can go back here and it'll tell you the changes. So it'll tell you exactly what got changed. You can compare your old files to your new files. And I'm going to get a drink of water here. So Git is very powerful. Now I'm going to open up MainActivity, and if you don't know the keyboard shortcut, you can always go to Java. The first one, MainActivity. I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff that we don't really need. We're not going to be using it in this exercise, so we'll just get rid of that. What do we need to do? Let's, oh, I know. So we can command click on activity main. Then if you go down to the text view or use the keyboard shortcut, command click on there, and then we'll see. This is a text view. Let's change this to a recycler view. So RecyclerView. Let's change both of these to 0dp. Let's get rid of that. Let's give it an ID. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we see our list here. Let's go back. So I'm just switching between design mode and text mode. I'm using the keyboard shortcut to do that. It's a very fast way to do that. So here's our list. So we can see our items here. Those are going to be our famous people in this app. So we're done with that. We're done with that. What do we need to do? Let's do this. Let's do, oh, I know. So we have our floating action button down here. It's given an ID of fab for floating action button. Let's go ahead and floating action button fab. Then we'll come down here, we'll go fab equals find view, r.id fab, and we don't need to cast it anymore. Like, we don't need to do that anymore. It's not necessary in Androids and Oreo, so we don't need to do that anymore. I'm gonna format the code, here we are. Let's do fab.set on click listener new on. And I'll do another one of these in Kotlin, but not right now. So let's do log D, let's do press, and let's do log T. Oops. So let's go ahead and run this really quick. And I'm going to open up the logcat down here. And we're on our emulate. Yeah, that's right. So we just got to wait just a second. So here's our famous people. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear the log. I'm going to go back to our emulator. I'm going to hit that button. And if you see in the background, see where it says on press clicked, on click pressed? That's right here. So every time I click that button, it'll add a new line there. So that's 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. I can click on this as many times as I want to. So let's just see what we can do next. Let's go ahead and create a new let's call this we'll call this, what should we call this? Create user. We'll call it create user. There we go. Add it to Git. So just to show you, I can go back to Git and I can do Git status and it'll say, hey, we got a new file. What is it called? It's called createuser.java. Oh, some files got changed. What are they? Oh, it's MainActivity and it's content. Do git diff and we can see the actual differences. So yeah, we added a floating action button. We added that. We got rid of some stuff that we actually could have used. I got rid of the snack bar. I'm just going through there. Oh, we changed it from a text view to a recycler view. Very powerful stuff. So I can, so we don't need to make another commit quite yet. But let's go ahead and extend app compat activity. Then let's do over on create. We'll do set content view dot. Now we don't actually have this created yet, so let's go into our resources, into our layouts, and let's call this one layout file. Call this create user, and we'll use linear layout. So that'll work for now. Yes is fine. We want to change this to wrap content, and for now we'll go ahead and this will be our. We'll just text. We'll call this text. We'll just call it that for now. So now what we want to happen is, if you go back to our main activity, every time you hit this button, we want to go to, and if I pull it up here, let's go back. Yeah, so every time you hit this button, we want to go to this details screen. So we want to be able to add a user. So let's go back so we can scroll through it. And this is, by the way, this is the finished app that I previously made last night or whenever. So you click the button and it goes to this page. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do start activity, new intent, main activity dot this, and then we'll call it create user dot class. And I'm getting that class from this create user. So whatever the class is named, just add a dot class to the end. So create user dot class, add person dot class, main activity dot class, contact us dot class, about us dot class. All that. I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need it anymore. Let's see what else we need to do. Oh, we need to add it to the manifest. So let's go to the manifest, activity, and then we'll call this create user. So you see our application tag there, that spans all of that. There's our first activity, and it specifies some stuff for like the main and the launcher icon. But this right here, I'm going to isolate it for just a second. This right here means, yeah, create, it's kind of like registering in the main. It's registering, each activity has to be shown here. So I'm going to go ahead and close, we don't need that anymore. We don't, we'll use that. Okay, so this should, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and run it and just see what happens. This should, oh, I know, it's, let me see if it works. Oh, it works. Okay, cool. So there's our add user. So let's go ahead and do something. Let's add padding, 24 dp. Let's do this, text size, 24 sp. Let's go ahead and run that. This should make the text a lot bigger and add a little bit of padding. So let's go ahead and click on that button, and yeah, there we go. That might even be too much padding. Let's go ahead and work on this screen actually. So let's do edit text. We'll do, what is it called? I forgot. What's the live text input? Oh, I see what I did. Okay, cool. Never mind. Let's do. Let's do edit text. I'm gonna make this bigger so we can see the difference, and we want that right there. So match wrap. There we go. So now somebody can put in data. So let's go ahead and give this an ID. We'll name it first name. Hint, we'll call this first name, and we'll extract this out to a string resource in just a second. But let's go ahead and run this and just see what it looks like. It may crash, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, so here we go. So it's actually kind of cool. So we have, so first name, let's go ahead and let's add some more now. So last name and email. So we'll name this to last, let's see here. So first, we're doing just first name, last name, and email. And it's giving us warnings here because we're not extracting string resources yet. We'll get to that in just a second. Oh, we need a button at the bottom. So button wrap. We'll call it button, and it needs some text. So we'll call it text. We'll call, not text size. we'll do save user. So let's go ahead and run this, and this should show up just fine in the emulator. Okay, cool. Save user. Now it doesn't do anything yet, but that's the next thing we're going to work on. So this is all working really well. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this because I don't like it. Ideally, you might want to put a title there, but I'm just going to get rid of it because I don't like it. I'm not a designer. I'm sure designers could come out with much better designs than I come out with. But here we go. So basically, first name, last name, email. This works for now. Okay, so what do we need to do next? So first of all, we're done with that. Let's go ahead and create some references here. So let's do edit text, first name, edit text, name. So let's go ahead and let's do first name equals find artist. We'll do last name, and we'll also do email. So we got to change this email, and this should work out beautifully. Okay. Oh, button. Not that. And then button equals find. So here it's all set up now. Let's see what we want to do. So we want to do on the button, whenever you hit the button, what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, save, get, so let me go back to it. So whenever you hit, so you do first name, whenever you hit save user, it's going to come and get the first name, the last name, the email address, and we want to save it. So right here we'll do to do save to database. Okay, so that's let's go and do get log. Let's do a first name. That's not. Let's do tag. So now every time, dot. Okay, so let's just run this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, hey, whenever you click on the button, whenever you click on that, we're gonna say, hey, give us a log of first name Daniel. So let's run this in the emulator. I think it's ready here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so we'll do Jack, and I'm gonna go ahead and clear. Hitting the trash can, I'm going to go ahead and clear that. Click save user, and there it is. So first name is Jack. Let's do Bob. So save user, and sure enough, there's Bob. So we're getting this text. So there's no problem with that. I'm going to get rid of that. So we're really good. Now the next part is we need to actually hook up the room database. So how do we do that? First, let's go back to terminal. So get status. So we can see we changed a lot of files. We changed the manifest, we changed create user, main activity. I can do get diff. And we can like scroll through this, all the text that was changed and added. Or as I showed you before, let's do get add status, get commit. If I do get log, and I'll zoom in here a little bit, but if I do get log, you can see how, hey, we have our initial commit, we have set up colors, we have more changes. Is that all we had? I guess so. Yeah, that's 347. Okay, yeah, so this is good. So more change. That's a bad commit name, but whatever. Go back to Android Studio, and let's see. Let's go ahead and start setting up the room database. I know, actually we should do the, let's go ahead and do the RecyclerView first. So let's do, then we'll do, so let's see, let's come down here. We need to load our RecyclerView. So how are we going to do that? Let's do RecyclerView equals find id.recyclerview. And we know that it's recycler _view because if we go into our main activity and our content main, we can see we gave it an ID of RecyclerView. So if we go back to here, you can see that, yeah, we're calling it RecyclerView. So let's do this. Let's do RecyclerView.setLayoutManager. So this is just a required step. Let's do RecyclerView.setAdapter equals adapter. And let's do this adapter equals new. Let's go ahead and pass in. Well, we'll get to that later. What else do we need to do here? I feel like we're missing something. So we set up our layout manager, have our adapter, we have our recycler view. I guess that's it. Now let's go ahead and do this. So I'm gonna just go ahead and create that class really quickly. Save. I'm gonna get rid of that. Let me. Yeah. Let's see. Adapter RecyclerView.adapter. Let's go ahead. Oh, so we set up our adapter. Did we set that up? Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. So I think this is correct. So let's go ahead and just import these. Sure enough, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that. What do we need here? RecyclerView.viewHolder. So what do we need? Let's see. There we go. Okay. So this is our adapter, and what I just did is I generated. Look at all this code that was just generated. I probably should have done it slower so you can see what's going on here. I'll do it one more time. So let's go ahead and I'll just duplicate that. We'll get rid of that. We'll call this ASDF adapter. Let's see. So because it doesn't exist yet, we can just click on it. We just click on ASDF adapter and go to Option Enter, Create Class, Enter, Enter. And that's forget enter. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do RecyclerView.adapter. Then we also need to do the name of it, which is ASDF adapter.viewHolder. Okay, so that matches that. No, that matches that there. So now this is the magic part where it generates a bunch of code. So on my Mac, Option Enter, Enter, Enter. Click on the view holder, then do Option Enter, Enter. Click on that, Option Enter, Enter. Click on that, Option Enter, Enter. So this just generated a ton of code for us without us having to do very much work at all. So if I go back to Git, do Git status, and we see, hey, we got some new files. We have our two adapters, our ASDF adapter and our user adapter. Then we also modified some stuff. Let's do Git add. So here's some stuff that got changed. So let's not do that. Let's just go ahead and get rid of our ASDF adapter because we don't really want that. So I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to uncheck those. Okay, cool. So let's get rid of that because we don't want that. No, oops, wrong thing. There we go. Okay. So, oh, we need to pass in our. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me get a sip of water. Okay, so this is pretty good. Let me, actually, before we do the room database, let me just go ahead and pass in dummy data. And we'll get rid of some of those. We don't want that or that. This might even crash if I run it because I haven't even set up data for the recycler view and stuff. Here it is. Okay. Oh, that's because it's 0. Okay, I get it. So let's go ahead and actually, and I have another couple of videos on recycler views, so you can probably just watch some of those. Just search for my channel. Okay, so let's pass it some data. So we'll call this users. So we're going to say, hey, in our main activity, whenever we create up a new instance of this, or whenever we open up the screen, set up the recycler view and pass the user variable to the user adapter. So it's going to come in here and say, hey, okay, in this class here, we now have access to a user. So let's go ahead, a user data. So this is not created yet. So let's do this. ArrayList string users. Okay, let's do users equals, then we do new ArrayLists and go to the end of that. That's good. Users. There we go. Okay, go. For I, we'll do 10 times. We'll do users.add. Okay, so here we go. So this is basically setting up the recycle. Well, this is the data we're gonna pass into it. So what I did is I did for I, and if you just type out for I, just like you see right here, hit enter, it'll set that up for you. It's very convenient. There are lots of stuff like that in Android Studio that make it so much faster. Like say you want to get to a certain class, like you want to get to colors, all you have to do is, or you want to get to content, or you want to get to, you just start. There are keyboard shortcuts for tons of stuff. So I'm going to get rid of that, and okay. So this has given us an error here because yes, we have a reference to our user adapter, which is up here, but we're not actually receiving. So right here in main activity here, we're sending the user data, but in here we're not receiving it. So let's do this. We're going to copy this, go into there. Now we're going to go down and do we'll do control enter, constructor enter, enter. Okay, that should get rid of the error. So let's set this up really quickly. Let's do users. So in our get item count, so users dot size, that'll pass in a certain number, of, say we have 10 users, or it starts at 0 and it goes up to 9. So we have 10 users, so so we're saying, hey, here is the list of users. We're going to pass it to the adapter. What does the adapter do with it? The adapter receives it right here, and it says, hey, so all of this class has access to users. So you can see all the different places it's used. So here it is, it's used there and there. What else do we need to do? Let's do this. Let's do view equals, let's do layout inflator dot from parent dot get contexts dot inflate. We'll do r dot layout dot user row parent false. And now, so we haven't actually created this layout yet for user row. We'll do that in just a second. So let's go to here. Let's make another line here. We'll call it return new view holder view. Okay, well, we're still getting an error here because user row doesn't exist. So let's go to our layout. Let's do new layout. We'll call this user row like we were supposed to. We'll linear layout. Constraint layout, I haven't done a whole lot with it, but I've found I prefer XML basically. Okay, wrap content, and we'll do this. We'll do text view match wrap, give it an ID of first name. There we go. We'll come down to here. We'll go inside of our view holder. We'll do, actually first, let's create a new variable. So public, we'll call this text view first name. Then we'll come down to here. We'll do first name equals view item view dot find view by ID r dot id dot first name. So we're using our view holder or item view there to access that. We're saying, hey, here it is. Okay, anyway. So now let's come back to our onBind view holder. So we'll do holder dot first name dot set text, and we'll call this users dot get position dot actually that's it, I think. Okay, because yeah, it's of strings. So an array list is, it basically says, hey, we have a list of something. What is this list of? In our case, it's a list of strings, which is can be first name, it could be Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, it could be Daniel Malone, Mel Malone, Deb Malone, could be anything really. So we're coming down to here and we're saying, hey, get our users, get our size, we need our size. Like, are there 10 items or are there 100 items? We need to know that. OnBind view holder basically says, hey, so get our holder, get our first name, which is right here, which by the way is also implemented right here, so that text there. And we're saying, hey, you know, set that up for us and set its text to, then get the user, get the position. This is kind of confusing, but hopefully you'll see it and it'll make sense as I run it for you. Another water sip. Okay. So this should be good. Let me check it out really quick. Well, I'm just gonna run it. It'll probably crash, but but it'll give us an error and we can see what the crash is. Instead of like examining all the code. It might work. Oh, here it is. Okay, cool. So here's our list. The text is kind of small. So you see Daniel number 0, 1, 2, 3. So how does that work? So when we set up our users, we basically say, hey, start at the number 0. Or it says, hey, do this line. See the line that's selected, line 33? Do that line less than 10 times. Counting starts at 0, so it'll go from 0 to 9, right? Yeah, so 0 to 9, 10 items. So this for loop takes something special. It says, hey, start at 0, see if start I at 0, if I is less than 10, do this line, and every single time you do this line, increase I by 1. So it'll start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So say I is 9. Is 9 less than 10? Yes, it is. It'll run. Then I gets incremented to 10. Then it says, hey, is I less than 10? No, it's not. So don't do that line. Just skip over, come down, keep doing stuff below it. Cool. Okay. So here is my list of it. You know, let's change this to 100. And this'll give us a lot to scroll through. So here we are. Boom, boom, boom. 99 users. You can scroll through all of them. Let's do, oh yeah, I know what I was going to show you. So the reason it says Daniel and then number 73 is because I'm saying Daniel number and then I'm using I. Again, I starts at 0. It gets incremented to 1. It gets incremented every single time you run this line. So it's starting at 0, 69, 70, 71. But if you look at this, there's not a whole lot of space around the users. So let's fix, this is new. I don't use instant run usually. So instant run actually is kind of cool, but I just haven't gotten into it. Well, at least on Android Studio 3.0, I haven't done much with it. Anyway, what was I gonna do? Oh yeah, so let's add padding. So let's do this. Let's do padding. We'll do this 12 dp, and we'll add text size. We'll name this 24 SPS. This will be huge. So let's go ahead and run this. This should give us a lot more spacing now. So here it is. Yeah, so there's much more space. The text is bigger and it works just fine. Okay, so I guess now is the time. Oh, let's go back to Git. So we'll do git status, and it'll say, hey, we got a modified file. We got some new files, and sure enough, the user adapter is new and the user row is new. Let's do git add. Oh, that's old stuff. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so here's some, main activity got changed, user activity got changed. Oh, no, new files. I'm sorry. So those are 2 new files. So let's go ahead and let's do git add dot. That'll add all the files. Git status. It'll say, hey, we have some modified files ready to be saved. So let's do git commit -m make app function. What's going on? Here we go. Okay. So that's probably a bad commit message, but oh well. So go do git log, and you can see, hey, you know, I did my initial commit. I got the setup colors. We did more changes. Then we made app functional with ArrayList. So you know, I'll do another one on Git if anybody's interested. You can always just right click on it, go to Git, then go to compare with, and we can set it with 17 minutes ago, and we can see, hey, so we got rid of that, then we added some new code. You can see exactly what changed here. It's a pretty cool view. You can see just exactly what changed. So let's go ahead and what else do we need to do? Oh yeah, the room database. So let's get that. This tutorial is running kind of long. I might put it into 2 parts. So we're basically done with that, and we're basically done with that. I say basically because we're probably going to want to add a last name and an email address. So let's go to Chrome. Let's go to room database. Actually, first make sure git status. Okay, we're clean. Okay, let's click on here. Let's see. We need to add something to our Gradle file. So a lot of times when you're using code from somebody else, or all the time when you use code from somebody else, you need to usually pull it in with Gradle. So let's do this. So it's basically saying, yeah, go. Or I'll just show you where it is. So I'm going to copy that, go back to Android Studio, and I'm an Android view there. Click on Gradle scripts. Now there are 2 of them, at least for most projects. You have a project one and a module one. Do your project one first. So save that, and it's always going to ask you to sync it. You have to sync it for it to work. I could have added some more stuff also, but so it just synced. Then it has some stuff you need to add, so I'm going to copy. So this stuff for room database, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Now this one goes in your module. So go into your module build.gradle file, see where it says dependencies. Just add it right there and click sync now. Okay, cool. So I'm going to close both of those because we're not going to need that anymore. So let's just look at what we need to do. It's not too complicated. You can probably figure it out on yourself. Yeah, database table. Let's do this. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this actually. Android Studio. We're gonna create a model called. We'll call this user class. Okay, cool. So what do we want in here? We want private ID, int ID, private string. We'll call this first name. Private string. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and this annotation says, hey, this user class is going to be stored in the database. So every time you have one of these, every time you have an object with an ID, a first name, a last name, and an email address, it's going to say, hey, this is going to be a row in the database. So you could have hundreds or tens of thousands of rows. Probably don't want that many, but you possibly could. And so, but we're not done yet. We need to add some stuff. Let's do this. Primary. It always needs a primary key. So let's do primary key, and we'll do auto generate equals true. So every time we add a new user, let's do something else. Forget that. Before we do the room database, let's do this. Let's do so we have our ID, first name, last name, and email address. Let's do this. Let's do constructor, and we'll select first name, last name, and email, and let's do getters and setters for it also. We'll do one for the ID also, just in case. So I'm going to select all of those and save it, reformat it. Everything's good. So instead of doing it this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do let's do user equals we need to do this. And what is it going to ask for? It's going to ask for Daniel Malone. Okay, cool. And it's complaining because normally before what we were doing is we were passing just a string to, I know. So what this is instead of string, remember when I was telling you earlier that you could have all kinds of stuff? You could have, milk bottles, you could have animals, you could have a list of foods, you could have a list of recipes, you could have a list of users, you could have a list of whatever. In this case, we want a list of users. And we're going to assign it to that variable. So here we go. So that solved that problem. And actually, let's do this. Let's do Daniel number I, just so we can actually see something. Okay. Because otherwise it'll be different. So remember when we had, it was just Daniel, you couldn't really tell what number you were on. Now we have numbers, so you can actually see what number you're on. Okay, cool. So users is complaining about that. Let's go into our user adapter and let's change this to user. Let's change that to user. Okay, cool. So let's do users.get first name. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and run this and see how bad it crashes. Or it could crash. Actually, could work. I don't know. I like to be optimistic, but a lot of times it doesn't work. Okay, so here we go. So let's add a little bit more here. Let's go into our row. This file is right there. Let's do this. Let's do first name, last name, email. So let's do last name and email. Let's make these 14. So those will be a little bit smaller. And let's go back to our user adapter. Now we're going to have to modify this a little bit. So let's do last name, email, and let's duplicate this a couple of times for last name. We'll change this to last name. We'll change this to email. We'll change this to email. Okay, cool. So now if we go ahead and run this, you'll see that I don't think not much will have changed. There's a little bit more spacing between them, and that's because between this 0 and this 1, so between that and between that, there's our text views, but they're empty. We need to call settext on those. So let's do holder, which is right there, and then dot last name, and that's available because we set it up right there. So last name dot settext, and we can pass an ASDF there. We could do anything there. Email. Let's call this my email. And that's a bad practice, but we'll just run it just so I can show you something. So here it is. So Daniel number 0, we have ASDF and my email. Now all of those are the same. What we want to do is we want to link the ASDF and my email. We want to link that to a specific user here to this user in our because see here we have 100 users. Each one's going to be separate. So let's do this. Let's do users.get. So it's basically saying we have a database table of users. What record do we want? Do we want all of them? Do we want the first one, the 10th one, the 90th one? Do we want item number 77? We could just easily pass in 77 there. Get first get last name. That'll work just fine. It'll only be getting 77, but instead of 77, we want it to go to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do we do that? Well, this onBind view holder gives us a position. So every time you run this, it'll give you a new number. So you can say, hey, get the user record for 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, and so on, and get last name. Let's do the same thing here. Users.get position email. Get email. Okay, so this should work, I think. So let's try it out and see. Cool, it works. So now we have 100 users. Okay, I think we have enough here that we could go back into Git and do Git status. And you can see we created a new user. We modified some files, Git diff, and we can see the difference. So we changed, if I scroll down here, you can see, I changed it from an array list of strings to an array list of users. We got rid of the basic Daniel and we started using our model. We created that class and git add, git status. So I can go back and do git log and you can see here are all my saves. So that one, make app functional with ArrayList, more changes, whatever. Let's go back to Android Studio. I'm gonna get some more water here. Okay, so now that we have a functional app and now that it is actually kind of working, what we need to do is we need to actually use the room database. So if we go to the room database, I'll just show you, as we go along, I'll show you some stuff. So entity, that says, hey, this user model right here, every time you call it, which would be, where do we call it? Well, it's gonna be different. But every time we get our users and we get positions, say we get email address. So every time we get an email address, and this, here it is right there for an example, we're gonna be pulling it from the room database. So well, then we also need to do some getters and oh, I know what we need to do. So this is gonna say, hey, every time there's a new record, you want to insert into the database. So right here we have 100 in the database. For each item in that database, for each of those 100 items, what we're going to do is we're going to start that ID at 1 and go up to 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 99. So say we have 100 users and you want to add 50 more. Well, now you have 150 users. It'll start at 100 and go up to 150. We also need to do, for each of these columns, we need to do column info, and then we'll do name equals first name. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that there and there, last name, and email. Okay, cool. So I think this might actually crash if you try this. I assume it would crash. Not exactly sure. But this is the setup for the room database. So we have our entity annotation. We have primary key. That's going to increment the ID every. So yeah, this primary key just applies to the ID, and that just applies to that, and that just applies to that. And you notice that I have different syntax here. Like in the code, it's last name without an underscore, and in the name in the database is actually last underscore name. That's kind of a strong database convention, I think. I'm used to like MySQL databases on Google Cloud Platform, DigitalOcean, AWS, or whatever. Okay. So what's the next thing we need to do? I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking. Oh yeah. So we need to add. Let's go ahead and just do a new Java class, and this is going to be an interface. We'll call this user DAO, and that stands for I forget what it called, like data access object, I think. That can be public, that's fine. Okay, cool. Add it to Git, sure enough. So if I go back to Git status, you can see we got a new file. We got our user DIO file. That's the one I just created. You can see, yeah, I also modified user. So if I do git diff, I can see the difference. So yeah, I added that, I added that, I added that, and I added that. Very helpful. So git status, and there's our modified. Okay, we don't need to do that anymore. Okay, what do we need to do? So let's do, this is kind of like this is how you access all the data in the database, basically. So let's do this. Let's do a list of, we could do anything there we wanted to. We could do farmers or users or websites or apps or invoices or products or laptops or whatever. In this case, user. We'll just call this get all users. Cool. Query, and this is the exact query that's going to be referenced. So let's do select all from user. There we go, cool. But we also want to add users. So how do we do that? We can do the insert annotation. So this will insert, so void insert all users. And we can do this one, but we'll just stick with this for now. So there's some more stuff we can do, but let's just try to get this functional with just selecting items. Or first, I should say, inserting items, and then getting back all of those items. So let's focus on that right now. So what do we need to do next? We need to create, let's go back into here, and we'll call this app database. That's what they call it in the example. And this is going to be an abstract class. So we can just check that. It's going to be a class. So public class, and what does it extend? It extends room database. Add it. Cool. So now we need to annotate it with database. Then we can give some options like entities equals, and then we do user.class version equals 1. And I'll get into version in just a second, but basically the version will be incremented. So every time you make a change to like the columns, like say you want to add an age. So how old are you? What is your age? We'd have to go back in and do 2. And then we say, hey, we want to get rid of first name and last name. We just want it to be full name. 3. But for now, we'll start at 1. Okay, this is working just fine. We need public abstract user data access object user, and we'll call it that. And there we go. So that file is pretty much done, I think. What else do we need to do? Let me think here. Oh, I see. I'm looking at my other monitor also. So what we need to do is we need to actually reference. Let me think here. I'm gonna get rid of that. Oh, actually, that's actually yeah. Okay, we're good. So let's do this. Let's do app database. We'll call it db equals room.database builder. Get application context. Then we need a class name, so app database. That's what we called it, .class. And we'll call this database production. And it's getting kind of long, so I'm going to wrap that around there. Let's see if I can actually pull this over. There we go. So it's all on one screen. Okay, cool. Let's see a little bit more. I'm going to close that and get another sip of water. And actually, we need to do a couple of things. We need to do, so normally you'd want to do, for any app, you'd want to do this in the background using something like ArcsJava, or we could do like a sync task, which is probably not recommended. But I mean, you need to do this on a background thread. But for now, we'll allow it. And we also want to do this so we can, or actually I'll get rid of that. We don't want it. I'll show you that later. But this method right here means, hey, allow the database to read and write on the main UI thread. A terrible, terrible practice. Do not do this in production. You want to wrap all of this in a background thread somehow. Okay, so database. So let's do this. Let's do db.get all users. And you can command click, and what does it return? It returns a list of users. You can see there. So let's see. There we go. Okay. So list of users. We're going to call that variable users, and that's what it is. So now let's pass in. So what is it asking for? User adapter cannot be applied. Let's see here. There we go. So I had to change it from ArrayList, or oops, did I mess it up? Yeah, I just changed it from ArrayList there to just list, and that'll do the trick. Okay, cool. So I think if we run this, I do not think it will crash. However, I don't think it will show us any records at all because there's 0 in the database. We don't have any users. So let's just run it and see how bad it crashes. And we can't even, I think I forgot to annotate that with DAO. Okay. Let me run that again. Oops, pixel, virtual device. Yep, that's all good. Now this, here we go. Okay, so there are no users. And if we click on this and we do ASDF, 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 it's not going to do anything. We need to fix this. We actually need to add stuff into the database. So if we go to our user data access object, we can see, hey, we have an insert method there. Let's use that. So let's go into create user. Every time you, let me go back to it. So every time you enter his first name, a last name, and an email, and you hit submit, that gets output right there. So right now we're just, we can show you, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, so every time we do that, we're adding a new user. So there it is. There's our new user right there. I can just click that again and again. I can do it AF77. And there it is, ASDF77. So not very helpful. So let's do this. And this is a bad practice, but I'm just gonna copy all of that code. Again, you don't usually want to do this. I'm gonna put it right to there, and I'm gonna do, so it's user. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do this. Let's do b.user.insert new user. What do it take? Okay, and then so after we insert it in the database, we want to go back to the main screen. So let's do start activity, new intent. We'll call this one, actually this has to be the exact name. So we want to go to main activity. So we'll do main activity dot, oh, that's the wrong order. Create user dot this, then main activity class. So, and so we want to start a new activity. An activity is a screen in Android. And we want to say, hey, we passed a new intent. We're on this screen right now, and we want to go to that screen. So let's see if this works. I bet you it'll crash. I'm not, let me see. Now let's see if it's added. So ASDF, save user. Cool. Cool, so there it is. Let's do something else. I'm trying to think here. We'll do something not very good at all, but let's just do this. For I, we'll do this 10 times. We'll call it Daniel number I. We need to move that up into there. This is a bad practice. There are better ways to do this, but just to show you something quick and dirty that works. So let's do this. Let's do, oh, we're not even using the right, oh well, here, I'll just hit save. Here we go, okay. So now we have a bunch of users we can use for testing. So Daniel 3. So every time we do that, we add a lot more users. We add 10 more users. So it goes up to 9, then it starts back at 0 again and goes up to 10. Just to finish this off, let's do this. Let's do you know, I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. Let's do this. Let's do first name dot get text dot to string. Then we'll do last name dot get text dot to string. This is saying, hey, get the first name, the edit text on the edit text right here. It's saying, hey, get that, go into that field and find the get the text for us, basically. Kind of how it works. Let's do email.getText.toString. There we go. Got an extra one of those apparently. And it's giving us an error. Oh, we need a semicolon. Kotlin to the rescue. Okay, so we have all of that done. This is the bad practice. You want to be doing this on the background thread, and you don't want to be doing this. You want to group your users to. There are many things wrong with this, but just for now, just to show you something, I'm going to run it, and then we'll be done with this. Let me see here. So we'll do this. We'll do Mel alone. Save user. We scroll to the bottom. See, we have 10 Mels. So it goes up to Daniel, and then the Mel right here and all the ones below it are the ones that just got created. So hopefully this showed you how to make an app, a very basic app using Google's Room database. So hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions or you want me to make another video on something specific, let me know in the comments and I'll try to respond. I'm kind of busy with work and other stuff, but if you need help, just let me know. Okay, thanks.